And it's always, when you start to pay attention, a consort of a male and female dealing with the same aspect of anything. Plain and simple. That's why so many Egyptian gods. And a lot of people don't understand that, which we're going to make sense of this in a little bit. So now again, when we get into the Hermetic text and the Kabbalion and the sacred texts and what have you, this stuff is getting into, energy, is getting into the law of attraction, and it's basically everything that they are learning in a Masonic lodges. Plain and simple. It's the stuff they're learning in the Masonic lodges to basically help them understand and follow universal law. Plain and simple. Understand exactly what is being used. But they're never going to give them, unless they way at the top, all that information. And it's why you have a lot of people, white folks who figured it out, who walk around and trying to really talk about this stuff and put out this information, but they haven't gotten to the point where they can apply it. You can eat right and take care of your body and do a bunch of stuff and everything like that, and run and exercise and look good and everything like that, physically. It has nothing to do with the spiritual nature of you and how you are developing spiritually. A lot of people think because they do yoga and because they meditate, they're somehow activating their chakras and really obtaining true spirituality because they meditate and because they feel great. But they have no clue about what they're touching and tapping into and how to use this stuff, or if they can even use it. They're really getting into the Kabbalion and into esoteric information on many different levels and the Masonic temples or what have you. But they'll tell you in the Kabbalion that there are 7 principles. Now, anytime when you're dealing with something that has to do with the occult or esoteric information and you see a number, 7 laws and 7 this and, 7 principles, that number always corresponds to something else. Just understand that. It means there's more to it because that number goes to something. Why 7? What is that? You wouldn't say there are 7 principles of love or 7 steps to truth. That's bullshit. Love is unconditional. Truth is unconditional. They're both dualistic though. Plain and simple. Either you love or you hate. It's true or false. There's no in between that. You can't just half love somebody or tell a half truth. But they'll try to convince you of that. For those of you who do study the Kabbalah, you already know what I'm talking about. They'll try to tell you stuff like there's truth and there's half truths and there's part truths and all this stuff like that. Come on. It's bullshit. Understand this stuff is corresponding to something else. And it's up to you to get to that point where you can understand what the number means or to have the knowledge to apply it. So we know what 7, when we see 7 a lot, is really dealing with perfect man. Perfect man, number 7 and other things as well. But 7 is really dealing with perfect man. We understand in the Bible that Adam or man was created on the 7th day. Now, you have, remember, everything was created 6 days. God rested. Then this is when he realized that, damn, ain't nobody to till my ground. I need to create man. And he created Adam. That was the 7th day. Or you can really debate that because you don't know if time, that's the thing with the Bible. You don't know if time passed in between that and all that. But, for the most part, it's the 7th day, and that's what people consider it as, the 7th day. But of course, we know, as I talk about, male and female created he, him, and he blessed them and told them to be fruitful and multiply. This is in Genesis 1, before Adam was created. We're going to really blow this up in this DVD. Watch. It's going to make sense now. Bring it all together. But you got to really start looking at the numbers, dealing with so many different esoteric things. And for those of you who are into the Kabbalah, I get messages from some of you, so I know you're out there. It's a lot of you. And, another thing is stop getting caught up in this stuff, man. I mean, so many people, y'all go out and y'all find, a lot of people are just looking for anything. It's still running away from the facts, running away from you, yourself, and you. And not really understanding or grasping, it all comes from Kemet. If you're going to look anywhere, look there. And then follow, everybody who walked out of there with the information if you want. But you need to still be looking at Kemet, and I'm not, it's up to you to go do whatever you want to do, but I'm just telling you, it's where it's going to lead you. So you got a lot of people who jumping into so many different esoteric things and trying to understand so many different things. A lot of people still hooked on the Book of Enoch. A lot of people jumping into the Kabbalion and into understanding the Kabbalah and everything like that, and mysticism, magic. A lot of people want to know about all this stuff, witchcraft, voodoo, everything. It comes from Kemet. Most of it is coming from Thoth Tahuti himself, and that knowledge, that understanding is coming from there. Please understand that. So now when you get into this whole Kabbalion, when you get into these esoteric books and we start looking at this stuff, you have to understand a lot of the people who write these books are from esoteric circles. And they are people who study the occult and people who may be in secret societies or what have you. So when they write these books, they do so the same way the Bible is written. They are seemingly, whistleblowers, or you may think they might be whistleblowers or putting out information or telling you what's hidden and everything like that. But you got to understand, when these people write their books, they are doing the exact same thing. They are hiding stuff. A lot of these people write the books so that other Masons and other people in secret societies can look at them as being, they can understand their level. They can know that where they are at knowledge-wise. And at the same time, they can pass along information in these books that only people in these esoteric circles will understand or get. And it's the same type of process to where as we're reading it, you could be looking at this stuff if you're not familiar with the occult. And if you're not in these esoteric circles, you may not get or understand what the book is talking about. So again, we go back to this whole point with the numbers is corresponding to something. So again, you have 7 being, perfect man. And you would look at this and understand about these 7 principles. And one of these principles being gender. So you got gender, you got the 7 principles, you got this number 7 going to perfect man. You understand that perfect man will be Adam in the Bible. So you follow the breadcrumbs. Where is this stuff leading me to? So you go and look at Genesis, and you'll get why it's talking about gender. Now, when we talk about gender as being one of the principles of universal law, don't think about it in terms of man and woman, male and female. Don't think about it in those terms. Think about it as, one being a different type of energy and another one being, another energy. We can say masculine, we can say feminine energy. But don't really think about it on a physical type of way of a male, genitalia and female genitalia, which is where most people go to. Think about it as far as energy. In Kemet, everything has a dualistic nature. As I said, you have the masculine, feminine energy. Even if we go to Ra, you got Ra, you have the Eye of Ra, you have Wachet, you have the Eye of Rajet, the original one. Same thing as I said, you have Isis representing the moon, you have Tahuti representing the moon. You have the same thing with Tahuti representing knowledge and wisdom and what have you, same thing with Sheshat. And you can go back and forth and pair all these beings up with each other and see that you have a male and a female, and they represent the same principles. Dualities, a dualistic nature, giving you the hint about the dualistic nature to reality. It's all going to make sense, trust me. I know it kind of seems like I'm beating around, but it's going to come together. I have to put all this stuff out. So, understand, you go to the garden, we look at the whole story, just look at the creation story first. And again, where you have God creating male and female. From the rip, giving you a dualistic nature. Male and female created he, them. And he blessed them and told them, basically go be fruitful and multiply. Remember, think about that. But it gets confusing because, it says, let us make man after our image, after our likeness. Who is he talking to? Who is the R? Is he talking to angels? Is he talking to Satan? Who is he talking to? R. What is that? And then we get into the whole confusion with Adam being created later and supposed to be the first man when we know, wait a minute, who is these people from Genesis 1:26? From Genesis 1. And nobody says anything. Nobody says, well, wait a minute, didn't he create people? People just completely left it alone. And as I said, I touched on it, but I will explain it. And this is where it's all going to come together. So here's the kicker. Here's the thing you got to start thinking about. And again, if you're not into this type of information, if you're not really into esoteric stuff, you're really going to decipher things based upon your understanding and what was taught to you. Plain and simple. That's as far as you can go. You only can go as far as the information that you put into your heart that you know. Plain and simple. When you're trying to figure something out, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, this is really important. When you're trying to figure something out, you can only go as far as what you know. There's not going to be instructions there to basically tell you how to decipher this. It's not going to be instructions there. You're going to look at it and you're going to read something, and it's going to be conducive and make sense to you based upon what you know, the information you have taken in. Just that simple. So when you go and you read in Genesis, and it's talking about male and female created he, them, and he blessed them and told them to go be fruitful and multiply. He. What's going on? So the question I'm going to ask you is, what is God? What is God? Is God a man? Now, the Bible would have you believe that God is a man. Why would God need to be a man? Why wouldn't God be a woman? Why is the Kabbalion dealing with gender? And then why is it really, really taking you away from genitalia and getting you to think something else? The whole point is, what is God? Is he human? No. God is not human. So why would he need genitalia? Why would he need to have a penis or a vagina? A penis and a vagina is for what? Physical reproduction. You need a penis, you need a vagina to create life, to create physical beings. God's supposed to be completely something different. So when you start to understand that and you look at the phrase, male and female created he, them, and he blessed them. And it's replete throughout the Bible, he, in referring to God. And what a lot of people don't know is that the word he is gender neutral, especially when it's talking about a God, a spiritual being. He is gender neutral. And the crazy part about it is the Bible is basically telling you that. But see, we go with what we follow, with what we've been taught. And a lot of people don't think outside the box. And when you look at certain verses, it only fits if he is gender neutral. So even when you look at Matthew 11:15, Revelations 2:7, Revelations 2:29, it says, he that has ears to hear, let him hear. So did God only want he to hear or men to hear? Think about that. Did God only want men to hear if he is not gender neutral? Did God only want men to hear his words or to hear what he's trying to say? When it's saying, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Look at the women that's present. So if a woman walked up with a big ass brick and just smashed Mary in the head, it's Jesus' fault for not making it specific who he's talking about. Because he ain't say she or he or she. He said, let he who is without sin. So what's to keep a woman from coming up and bashing her in the head with a brick? See, you got to understand back then, he was gender neutral. And everybody knew it. It was a known thing that he is gender neutral. So when you start to go back and look through the Bible, it's something that we very easily just pass up when the Bible is mentioning let he or he this and he that and he. A lot of people don't think about it. I said before, it's so male dominated. But the whole book is talking about the woman. And you got to understand it's a dualistic nature there. The whole thing. And it's telling you something. It's trying to get a point across. So he is gender neutral. So when you have back in Genesis, when it's saying let he, when God is saying he, male and female created he, them, and he blessed them. He, gender neutral. God doesn't need a gender. Why? He's not human. He don't need to reproduce. He's supposed to be creating us from whatever. So you start to understand that it's more to that story when it's talking about the creation and male and female being created. There's a lot more to it. So esoterically, when you look at the story, you can kind of sort of see what it's talking about. And you got to understand, we're talking about a creation story, the creation of us. And you start to understand that what's being created and what it's talking about in Genesis is the creation of our dualistic energy. Plain and simple. This is what it's getting into. It's talking about the creation of our dualistic energy, what we really are, being created first. So as I talk about consciousness into energy, this is what it's basically getting to on a smaller level, trying to hint to exactly what it's talking about, which is the reason why we get into Adam, or the atom. So Genesis 1:26, when he is saying, let us make man in our image, giving us the creation first, because remember, we're talking about the beginning of it all. At first, of course, before we was flesh, we were spiritual. So it's giving us that spiritual creation first. Male and female created he, them. Adam is the soul, or the spirit turned into flesh, the living soul, plain and simple, on this earth. He became a living soul. What you have to understand and how you bring this thing together and understand what it's talking about is when it's saying, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Who is he talking to? He's talking to himself. And when you begin to understand the dualistic nature of us, you understand that it's talking about God himself. Our true nature is both male and female. Our energy is both male and female. Male and female created he, them, and he blessed them. It's giving it to you right there. So when he's talking about let us make man in our image, he's talking about exactly what he is, because he is not a male, a man, and he's not a woman. You're talking about God, it's supposed to be energy, which you'll understand, that's us. Same thing. We are gods, plain and simple. So it's saying, and I'm going to break this down in Corinthians in a second, but it's saying he created, the energy was created first, which we go back and we could just say the creator, not God, the creator being consciousness, creating these elements and energy or what have you, giving us the creation of us, which we are this energy, and we are a dualistic energy, both masculine and feminine. And this is what we are before we are flesh, before we become into these bodies. We are both male and female energy. And the whole point is, when you come here, we are separated. So you have basically within the male, his feminine side, this feminine energy is locked away in the subconscious. Plain and simple. With the female, her masculine energy is locked away in the subconscious. We're going to talk about this a bit more. But this is what it's talking about. This is what it's talking about in Genesis. It's giving you the creation of our soul first, and then the creation of the physical body, which is made of the dust of the ground, which is hinting to stardust, which everything is made up of that. We are made of the same, these bodies are made of the same thing this planet is made of. That is what it's alluding to. So when you see esoterically what it's speaking to as far as the creation of our souls first, and then the creations of our bodies, being Adam, the first man, which man or he, again, we can look at it multiple ways, as I explained, is really talking about splitting the atom and creating the woman being first. And you can look at it as far as saying, Adam is dual, and we're going to get into that as well. But this is what it's talking about. I don't want to give too much away too early because we got a lot more to get into. But it's giving you the creation of our masculine and feminine energy in Genesis 1:26 first. That's why it's confusing, and it looks as if you don't have this knowledge and information, if you are going off of what you have been taught, what you have been brought up to know, if you can't think esoterically and understand what the occult and how they think in these, mystery schools, you will never get that. And as I said, it's not meant for you to get. So of course, you looking at it and you saying, male and female created he, them. You think it's talking about a literal man and woman, but it's a spiritual sense. And as I said way back then when I got into this, I said we'll get to the point where I can break this down and explain it so you guys can understand it. But of course, there was some prerequisite, DVDs and videos I had to put out, ahead of this, so you guys can really understand, what I'm getting into and what I'm trying to speak to. So now 1 Corinthians 15:44-47 makes more sense now when you read it. It's saying here, it is sown a natural body, it is raised a spiritual body. There is a natural body and there is a spiritual body. Exactly what I was just talking about. Spiritual body being first, our natural being next. And so it is written, the first man, Adam, was made a living soul. The last Adam was made a quickening spirit. And as I pointed out in that game, the Bible and Christianity finally explained that quickening is a pregnancy term. Quickening means when you begin to feel fetal movement. So it's giving you the hint that it's talking about creation, creating us. And you have the spirit being first, and then Adam representing the spirit coming into flesh, the living soul. Then it goes on to say, howbeit that was not first, which is spiritual, meaning us coming out as, what we really truly are is spiritual, but that which is natural, and afterward, that which is spiritual. The first man is of the earth, earthly. The second man is the Lord from heaven. And that's basically telling you that you are God, plain and simple. It's basically saying when you die, you become God. Plain and simple. If you're a conscious God, then you don't reincarnate. Plain and simple. If you're not, then you come back here. And we got into all this, and we got to get into it a lot more. But this is what it's giving you in Genesis. And it all goes to fit with duality. Understanding the dual nature of the universe, and everything in existence has a dual nature that is a principle of reality and a principle of nature and a principle of universal law. There's a dualistic nature to everything, and the Egyptians was bang on with it. So when you start to peep that they are hiding this stuff in esoteric books, when you peep that they hiding this stuff in esoteric books and occult mystery schools and everything like that, you see that, we can find this stuff in Kemet, so we know where they got it from, and we know that they're using it and implementing the magic and implementing the teachings into what they're doing as far as manipulating and controlling us. And this is what we are seeing. So for men, again, our feminine energy is locked away in our subconscious. Understand that. Same thing with the woman. The masculine energy is locked away within your subconscious. As I keep saying, it's about becoming one, because you bring together what you truly are in order to manifest. You bring together, you awaken those energies and bring them together with who you really are on a conscious level. And when they come together, this is you becoming who you truly are, knowing yourself, becoming one again. And it's hard for people to fathom this because it's a male-dominated world. Everything is male, male, male. It's about appeasing men. And this is to pervert and to go away from what is supposed to be right. And again, when I talked about this before, as far as, hermaphrodites, homosexuality, and why it is so celebrated when you start to understand esoterically what we're talking about here, and you being a hermaphrodite or transsexual or LBGT or what have you, really being able to tap into both energies when you understand it. See, a lot of these people in LBGT and community, they are completely oblivious of this information, so they don't really understand what's going on. It's been put out for a long time as them being hated. And all of a sudden, we got all these laws and everything that's being passed, and there's not a lot more stuff coming out to help them. And we're seeing the acceptance more and more. It is going towards them understanding what it's really about and how this is about energy. This is why they celebrate it in the occult. They're looked at as, really spiritual, high-level beings in the occult. And it's all about energy, and I want to get into it too deeply, but it has to do with energy. And for those, because I have quite a few people, LBGT, who follow, and I dialogue with a couple of them who ask questions, because some of them are very smart, and some of them are up on this type of knowledge. And we got into it because it's just, you have people who don't understand this whole thing, and they think this is a choice by people in LGBT community to be what they are, and they just somehow going against what they're supposed to be. You are what you feel you are, plain and simple. You can't just go against who you are. And we have been taught to not understand that and look at people as, they're different, so we don't like them. They're going against what's normal, so we don't like them. No matter how you feel as a man or how you feel, against it as a woman, you can understand on a rational level that a person doing something that makes them happy, that they feel is natural, is something that you can't really knock. You don't got to deal with it if you don't want to. You can get away from it if you want to, but you got to understand that this is something that a person, feels is normal. And we live in a society that basically, destroys all that. And on the spiritual flip side of it, it's a powerful thing when you look at it. And, that's going to be hard for some people to accept because they wrapped up in this physical mind. But when you understand the whole point that there is no such thing as gender, really, this is a fleshly thing. There's no such thing as gender in the spiritual realm. We are all both male and female. It is what it is. But it's the energy that is important. So when you begin to understand this and understand about energy and what the stuff is really about and how they're using our ignorance to basically control us, then you see, what the stuff is really about. But this is one of the important parts you need to understand about the dualistic nature of who we are and what we truly are outside of this fleshly body. So, if it's talking about, going back to energy in Genesis, it's talking about male and female energy being one, and you are confused by them saying them, created he them, because it's still a them, it's still a masculine and feminine energy. So, of course, because of the way we've been taught, we think we know what them means them, multiple, and again, we have all been taught a language that was created specifically because of the Bible. It is the same thing with the Quran in Arabic. It is the same thing with the Torah in Hebrew. These languages was created specifically for the religion, for the doctrine. And it's the same with English. Plain and simple. So we know them to mean multiple people. Again, we got to understand that this stuff has been put a certain way, and words correspond with certain things for a reason that ties into biblical things, the Bible itself. And when you start to understand that stuff, then you can piece stuff together. But masculine, feminine energy, and it really gives it away in Genesis 5, because Genesis 5 is like, when it's talking about, and God blessed them and called their name Adam. Their name. Blessed them and called their name Adam. What about Eve? So it's telling you that the whole story is a dualistic story about our dualistic nature, our dualistic energy in one body. Plain and simple. The fact that it's a male, that it's Adam, we know, really talking about the atom. It fits that point, and at the same time, it fits the whole male dominance of the Bible. This is the point. This is the reason why it's in there. Now, the whole thing with the natural law dealing with this whole gender thing, it is right in line in the Kabbalion with polarity. Plain and simple. Because with polarity in the Kabbalion, and the only reason why we sticking with the Kabbalion is because and these esoteric books, as I said, they put them in code, and we just gonna go and decode some of this stuff a little bit. We're not gonna really follow what they're talking about because I can see through it. But when you follow it, you can see what they're trying to point you to. Now, if you went to the Kabbalah and you start going through this, you better have a Bible, because this is what it's talking about. It's going to point you right back there. So, gender is in line with polarity, and polarity being one of the principles of natural law, talking about everything has a dual nature. Everything has, equal sides, basically. Everything, the parts are parts of a whole. So when you understand about polarity, we're talking about up, down, left, right, or what have you. We're talking about, if you have, just put it this way, you got shoes on the left foot, shoes on the right foot. We're still talking about feet. Up and down, go up the steps, down the steps. We're still talking about stairs, even though it's two different directions. Right and wrong, we're still talking about morality. We're still talking about, it's dualistic to everything. We're still talking about the same thing, So when you understand that concept and understand that everything has a dualistic nature, right, wrong, love, hate, in, out, up, down, back, forward, whatever. It's dualistic in everything. And these principles fit the same principle of gender to give you an understanding about what exactly they're talking about, which is the fact that you have to look at reality dualistically in everything that counts. And this really has to do more with spiritual things, of course. This material stuff don't matter. So now when you begin to understand, we come into this world separated. Masculine, feminine energy separated. We should be one. We should be one. And that is the whole point. And when you pay attention to all the ancients and all the civilizations and what they're talking about, one. But they're always talking about two separate masculine and feminine energies. No matter what civilization you go back to, if they had a spiritual system, they had a dualistic situation to where it was a masculine and feminine energy, no matter where you look at. So again, when you start to understand about yin and yang, yin, negative female energy, yang, masculine, positive energy, and we always see them coming together. That is the power, them coming together. We see this a lot. We see this in so many different aspects and ancient civilizations and ancient spirituality of them bringing masculine and feminine together. Even in the Garden of Eden, when it's telling you about the dualistic nature, of that story, even on a physical level, you have the dual hemispheres of the brain. You have the flax cerebri, as I talked about, and tentorium cerebelli, that's separating the reptilian lower brain from the higher brain, your whole limbic system and everything like that. We have separation in so many different things, 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes. There's a dualistic, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, we understand. It's dualistic to everything. Male genitalia, female. It's dualistic in everything. It's just crazy when you really start to understand where you see this stuff at. And then you got to really start to sit back and understand what the whole marriage is about. Weddings, bringing people together, the male and the female, coming together in marriage and union. And this is supposed to be a union of spirituality. Now, I was hitting on this thing in the whole DVD on meditation part 1, and we got into this. And I was talking about how powerful it is when we come together and we have sex. What happens? So as I said, for us men, we have the feminine energy locked away in our subconscious. For women, they have the masculine energy locked away in their subconscious. When we come together sexually, what is taking place is the female is unlocking the feminine energy of the man, and the man is unlocking the masculine energy of the woman. And this is the power that comes together to create life. Plain and simple. Because you got to think about it. You got to think about it. How can one create two? How can one create two as far as you being something that is needed to create something? So you need to be yourself, your dualistic energy, in order to create a dualistic energy. Because that's what we are. In essence, the true energy of us is a dual nature. But by you having your masculine energy locked away or your feminine energy locked away, you don't have the power to create. You can't create. You need to come together with the woman so she can unlock that part of you, and the man can unlock that part of you, and that energy that comes together. When there's a perfect union, you create life. As I said, you can have sex 50 times, no pregnancy, nothing to happen. There has to be a perfect union, and it don't have nothing to do with soulmate or anything like that. It don't have nothing to do with reproductive organs. Of course, that's a part of it. If you have, organ problems, that's totally separate. It has to do with that perfect union and that energy being the perfect energy, the masculine and feminine energy needed to create life, to put back into the woman the masculine and feminine energy that she can't do herself. And that's basically what it is. This is why sex is ritualized in the ancient world. It was ritualized because they understood the power in it. They understood what was going on. So again, it's a lot of power transfer. It's a beautiful, powerful thing that's taking place during sexual union that has to do with the exchanging of energy and opening up the full power of what we are and who we are during sex. Plain and simple. And you have to think that that is something intelligent that put that, whole thing together to where, we come together and this is the only way we can unlock who we are to create life. Because if you go back to the Egyptians talking about the woman being on the spiritual level and being able to create life without a man, you got to think about that. She must have been powerful. And this whole thing goes into the moon coming into place, and then all of a sudden you have the menstrual cycle of the woman that what a lot of people believe disrupted that power. And, that's a big thing. We get into that down the line. So you have to look at the whole thing and understand, what the stuff is talking about and about masculine and feminine energy, and that it is the union of masculine and feminine energy that is coming together to create something in physical reality.